There's always a man, there's always a city, there's always a lighthouse.
Now would you kindly head to Ryan's office and kill the son of a...
Let's go out to play, Daddy.
Go back to the Sodom from which you came!
It's time to finish this.
Catch!
That'll do. Elizabeth!
RWBY Grimm Eclipse is a bad licensed video game. Not because it's a bad game, although it certainly is, but because it doesn't take any of the positive qualities of the show it's based on. Sure, it looks like the show, features the same music and voice actors, makes the occasional callback, but it lacks any of its clever writing, charm, and personality. If there's one thing I expected this game to get right, it would have been those things, because RWBY Grimm Eclipse is a very unique example, because it was created in-house at Rooster Teeth, the same company responsible for the show. So rarely does a show have such direct access to the talent behind the show it's based on, and even with all that advantage, the game barely makes an effort.
Aw, you're the bestest teammate ever!
Grimm Eclipse starts off with a pretty solid premise by being a 4-player hack-and-slash action game. The style of gameplay lends itself well to letting players mimic the fast and stylish combat that's core to the show. But the game lacks the budget and productions to be the Bayonetta-like that it needs to be, so it instead goes with a simpler approach, invoking Dynasty Warriors instead. Which is perfectly alright, as long as the game's still fun to play, it's fine. It's not though. Each chapter has you run through a linear level, fighting enemies with the occasional dialogue, and that's kind of it. The environments, while nice looking, are large and empty. You run through these massive areas simply to get to the next group of enemies to fight, and the time in between fights is dull and boring. And that's really all you do, stop to fight enemies and then move on. Sometimes it'll mix things up by introducing a wave of enemies, and then another wave of enemies. Oh, and what's that over there? It's another wave of enemies. Sometimes waves happen while you must defend an objective. However, this objective takes so little damage, it might as well not even be there. It's not until halfway through that something finally new happens with this cart escort mission, but it's not very fun, and I'd rather go back to the waves. There's simply not enough variety to the missions that by the end of the second level, you feel like you've seen everything the game has to offer, because you kinda have. The combat itself isn't great either. There isn't really much in the way of combos, so you just kinda have to run up and spam the buttons and hope you do damage, except even that doesn't really work. Enemies have this amazing ability to block all your attacks, which isn't telegraphed well enough in the chaos of battle, so you'll be wailing on them for a few seconds before you realize you aren't actually doing any damage. And some of the systems feel like they're really clashing against each other rather than working together. Take these enemies that you encounter around halfway through. They explode after hitting them, so the idea is you want to hit them then dodge away or shoot them from a distance. But the game also says, hey, you can counter these guys. So you do it because there's a button prompt and the game says so, and why not? The game's telling you to do it. However, this moves you right on top of them, guaranteeing that you'll be hit by their explosion. So your reward for using the counter system is taking damage. The game also lacks any real tutorial, which at first seems fine since everything is so basic you can pick up on the mechanics just from playing. At least that's what I thought until I encountered this ability on the skill tree, which describes a cool move your character can do, but doesn't tell you how to pull it off. After going through most of the game not understanding how to activate this skill, I finally found it by looking up a user-made Steam guide outside of the game. I'll repeat that, a user guide not found in the game. Turns out this whole thing is related to team attacks. To do a team attack, you must get an enemy in a state where they can be attacked by your teammates, which is symbolized by this silver icon above their head. How do you get them in this state? It's completely random. Once they're in this state, another teammate will see the icon in bronze and then can run up and hit the right bumper and do that special move, completing a team attack. Again, none of this is explained in the game at all. As I mentioned earlier, it's the ties to the show that really make this disappointing. The narrative holding these chapters together is paper thin, with small dialogue telling you where you are and what your objective is, but none of it is particularly interesting. The first half has you running through an uninspired retread of locations from the show, which is cool to see, but offers nothing new with them. While the second half does offer brand new places and enemies, they aren't particularly interesting. The attempts to develop a more concrete narrative with brand new characters comes in very late and falls completely flat because it lacks any of the punch from the original show and dialogue delivery that is shockingly poor.
Dude. Oh no. How could I be so stupid?
Initiating the upload.
You did it! Now, can you proxy the signal over to your scroll?
Prepare to meet your doom, students!
Some of the characters' personalities do slip through with the occasional line, but these moments are few and far between. The campaign ran me about 3 hours, and considering it stopped being fun after the second level, it's probably a good thing. The game does encourage you to play again, this time with a different character, but even if that was something I wanted to do, which it's not, the characters simply don't feel different enough from each other to feel like I'm getting a different experience. If I sound like I'm being overly harsh, it's because honestly I had pretty decent expectations for this. I'm a fan of the show. I think it would make a great video game, and there's a lot of potential there. This game squanders all of that. It's hard for me to even recommend to the most diehard of RWBY fans who would be okay with a somewhat mediocre game, but they get to hear some funny dialogue, considering the game's incredibly steep $25 price point. And that's really who this is for, fans of the show, and I think it's such a missed opportunity that they couldn't even capitalize on that, considering they had such direct access to the creators themselves. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you have been playing the game, or you're a fan of the show, please let me know in the comments below. Start a conversation. I enjoy having those with people. And if you want to see more stuff like this, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out and tells us that people like this stuff. And hey, have a good day.
Better and better, better and better, better and better, better and better, better and
Booyah!
better,
Booyah! Booyah!
better and better, better and better.
Booyah! Booyah!
Better and
Booyah!
better.
Booyah! Booyah!
Better and better.
Booyah!
Better and
Booyah!
better.
Booyah!
Better and better.
Booyah!
Better and better.
Booyah!
Better and
Booyah!